Kia ora koutou. Welcome to our Garden District Council council meeting, 11th of December. We have our Karakia Timatanga to open the meeting. If you'd like to join in, it's just up on the board on the left. Mai te whae mai te awatonga, raro ki te awa, tēnei te hakuri, awhi ai te ngāhi, whānau, hara, haumie, whānau, kia ora. Apologies, I'll just start with apologies. His Worship the Mayor, who is on sick leave at the moment. Thank you. Councillor Cherry-Campbell's happy to move that. We have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Della. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, just before we move further on, I just wanted to just mention the passing of Eoin Clarke. Yes, he passed away yesterday at Carterton. I just want to give a little bit of background of Eoin. Eoin started out his working career for Massons at, I think, the age of 16. He spent 40 years working for Massons, where he learnt to be a wheelwright and a very proficient engineer. He won the Supreme Award in 2015, Charles Rooking Carter Supreme Award, for his 60 years of community service. Eoin was employed in 1961 by the Mayor at the time, Ron Wakeling, to work on the town clock, which he spent 4 decades doing. And it wasn't that many years ago that he stopped. It's incredible. Eoin also built the horse-drawn carriage, which you would have seen near Ron and his wife Chris being taken through the Christmas parade, called a Surrey with a fringe on top, which is an incredible addition to Carterton. But I'd just like us to please stand and just pay a minute's silence for please. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay. Next item on the agenda is conflicts of interest declaration. No, we can move on. Public forum. Our first speaker at public forum today is Graham O'Dowd, speaking on bridges. Welcome to the table, Graham. Welcome. Thank you.
Right, some those photos put up, please. It's a bridge just out at Brooklyn Road. Bottom of the rail's been broken for quite some time, and doesn't look like there's any paint thrown at it for a few years. We have the next bridge, please. That's one just round the corner, Manning's Road. It's got vegetation on it, broken rail, no paint, it hasn't been painted. And the other ones, please. It's out by the Gladstone. See the no more paint, no paint work. Hasn't been cleaned. Vegetation along it. It hasn't been cleaned for a long time or water blasted. And that one there You can see the lip of the concrete at that end. And if we go to the next picture, the dirt's higher than the concrete. And that hasn't had any paint thrown at it for quite a few years, I would say, but yeah. That one is out just past Rocky Hills. And bridge inspections, it's saying it's got to be done annually, each bridge. Condition of bridge approaches, handrails, guardrails, condition of paint, deck including deck drainage and cleaning of debris off the decks, the drainage holes, cleaning of the bridges and the approach. So goes back to what's Fulton Hogan doing, or who's overseeing what Fulton Hogan's doing, because it seems to be a reoccurrence that we're paying for something that's not getting done. And I just would like some answers, because if we're going to put up everyone's rates, why are we doing that when we're not even doing stuff that's in the contract? And who's overseeing the stuff in the contract? And then if something does happen, what's the reparation on the council, you know, because of the dirt on the bridge? You know, it's high at one end, so when it rains, you approach it with a logging truck or another heavy vehicle and you're in a car, you can't see. And then you get shattered with dirt and scum all over your windscreen. Well, what's happening? That's what I want to know. In the last meeting, when I put up the other photos, I put in service requests, had no feedback at all. No one's been in contact, nothing. And had no feedback from their meeting on, oh, this is where we are going to do something, or there seems to be no feedback. So could someone get back to us and go, well, hey, this is what's happening? But you can see in black and white, those bridges haven't been maintained. Yeah, that's it.
I'm happy to take an action to pick up the service requests that have been lodged and find out why they haven't been progressed. I'm happy to defend them.
Do we have any questions around the table for Graham?
I might have one. The photos that we just saw then, I'm wondering if, in your opinion, they're hazardous and dangerous, or if it's more aesthetic issues.
Well, I'm not a builder, but on those wooden bridges, on those first ones, you've got quite a wide beam, and that's been broken, and that's probably got quite a bit of structure holding the other timber down. That runs across that way, not lengthwise. So that would have been bolted down to hold the structure. And then those rails, it's in the contract to go, why haven't they been repaired? And why isn't it getting painted? Like, I don't care at the end of the day whether it gets painted or not. The problem is, it's coming out of my pocket paying for a contract that's not getting fulfilled. And I'd guarantee everyone in Carterton would back me on it, because it's sick of giving out money and nothing's getting done. Like, who runs a business in that way? Like, if you had your own business, someone come in, right, we're going to paint your house. They didn't paint your house, but you pay the bill. Would you be happy on paying for that? Yeah. Anyway, thank you for your time.
No further questions around the table? Thank you, Graham.
Cheers.
Public forum, we have Maryann Cowgill. Maryann.
You want another seat?
No, I'm fine.
You sure?
Oh, no, okay. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, council. Okay. My name is Maryann Cowgill. I live at 524 Perry's Road, which was the site of a recent meeting between Perry's Road residents and council representatives. Our small group, Tim McCabe and Helen Trotman and myself, represent the majority of residents who live on Perry's Road. We need council support to help reduce a serious dust issue along the Perry's Road segment between Cornwall and East Karatahi roads. On dry days with a prevailing wind, the effect of an unsealed road with an unassigned speed limit means large volumes of airborne dust is created by vehicles travelling the road at more than 50 kilometres per hour. This airborne dust fills the air residents breathe, covers our homes, paddocks and livestock. Most of us rely on rainwater off our roofs. This dust causes contamination and ends up in our water supply. To help mitigate the amount of dust emitted from Perry's Road, residents propose a number of solutions which would have an immediate and practical effect. Our preferred option would be to seal the road. If council won't extend the existing seal, we'd like to know what are the options available to residents to have otter seal applied to our road frontages. We do know the otter seal technique has been proven to be the lowest cost solution for dust minimisation and is used to good effect across New Zealand. Residents request the speed limit to be set at 50 kilometres an hour, and this is pretty urgent in our box. And to also erect warning signs to read dust and slow down. We also request to have the road only graded between April to October, due to when there is no rain, traffic dust is amplified tenfold after grading, which has happened recently. So the road's graded, it's dry, and the mostly utes that scream along that road, the dust levels are horrendous coming across our properties. Perry's Road residents are rural people, and yes, we do understand country life. As a group, we unanimously agree the amount of dust we live with is too much dust. We respectfully ask council to give serious consideration to this proposal for improvement to the 1.5k stretch of Perry's Road. Thank you.
Questions for Maryann? Councillor Ayling?
In your opinion, is the sealant spray or the speed reduction more of a priority?
Well, both, absolutely both. But because, you know, if you had the seal, the dust wouldn't be there. But the speed is a huge issue. Particular times of the year, I invite all councillors to drive down Perry's Road, our segment of Perry's Road, between 4 and 5, and just at a speed faster than 50 k's, and just see what kind of effect your dust would have on the properties around you. We can't go outside during those times. It is a serious health concern to a lot of the residents, and it's just it just totally reduces the quality of life, and we're not being it's not a case of suck it up, buttercup. This is a problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions? No? Thank you, Maryann.
Thank you.
Thank you. And final person in public forum today, Bleakley.
Excuse me, apologies, Claire, I can't, your email, I have saved your PowerPoint somewhere, but I just can't find it right now, so you might have to talk without it.
Okay. Sorry, I apologize.
I won't find it, I think I can, but I just normally put it in one place, it's not there.
Okay. Kia ora, ko Claire Bleakley te kuinga, and good to see you all. I come from the Rohe down south, so thank you for hearing me. I think this is going to affect all properties in all councils across the country. So I'm raising concerns over the new gene technology bill. As it is drafted, it's going to affect the councils and its ratepayers in the long run. And I ask how council is going to deal with the new conditions on genetically engineered organisms. The rural community cannot afford further costs through rate rises or loss of economic livelihoods. This bill is going to loosen the rules around genetically engineered organisms, and it is a big threat to the councils who will have to manage any escape across the motu. It also will affect the boundaries as well, cross-contamination across boundaries. As the council, you are responsible to protect the Carterton and the Wairarapa farming urban population under your duty of care. And the Carterton District Council is charged with safeguarding our environment, farmers' livelihoods, care of nature, and supports our economic productivity. Our environment, health and export potential is now threatened by this bill, being drafted to relax the GE regulations. Minister Judith Collins has directed that important issues are to be excluded from the bill. I'd like to say that last night, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment put the bill up, and it's going to have its first reading, they think, next week. If not, it will be the first in February. Anyway, so these are the issues that are to be excluded from the bill. There'll be no precautionary principle, which is to protect nature. There is no regional or district council protection for non-GMO producers. The liability on users will not be there, and there's no liability of GE to ensure that they manage risks. No supply chain segregation to devote to separation and identity preservation. No labelling of exempted GE organisms. In other words, they can come in unregulated and unlabelled if they are approved by possibly 2 different OECD countries. That will not preserve farmer and consumer choice. There are no specified standards for ethics or to prevent any animal or farm problems. These exclusions endanger New Zealand's environment, export, farmers' livelihoods and the public interest. And just last week, because I wrote this report, Organic Aotearoa New Zealand commissioned a report, and it reported that $10 to $20 billion will be lost to the economy through a drop in demand from New Zealand. The problem with that is even though it was an organics bill, it covered farming across, and as organics supposedly is only 1% of the GDP, $19 billion is going to be lost from the loss of conventional, regenerative, organic, and all the farming systems. And at this stage, there's no way that the GE is going to replace that cost, and it might take a long time. So any genetic contamination that arises in council reserves will have grave repercussions if it leads to contamination of farms and raises liability on the berms. This cost will be forced onto ratepayers and of the district. As an elected council, we ask you protect the people to ensure these issues are not excluded from regulation in the Gene Technology Bill. I ask the Carterton District Council to seek clarification as to responsibilities for protection, liability, lack of proportionary approach to their communities. And as the photos aren't there, they really are just photos of the fact that if a farm grows GMOs and we have a flooding risk, and the photos were all about the flooding, by the way, or the wind. Contamination will be able to go across the road, say, into the further council land. But what's worse with that is that it will contaminate council berms. Now, if you're a farmer on this side, you are more likely to say that the contamination came from council land as opposed to the farmer next door. And you're more likely, if there is, to sue for loss of livelihood, your council. We need that addressed. The Northland District Council has got a G-free region, so has Hawke's Bay, so has Nelson. But I think this new bill will actually prohibit councils for making any land use issues around GE to protect their farmers. So we ask that you are very aware of this bill, but also maybe to write to Ministry for the Environment, Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment to clarify these issues before the second reading of the bill, but also to find out what council's responsibilities will be if there is no liability. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Claire, for your presentation. I've just got one question that I see here, that the duty and care of land use and the environment is main person that's the guardian, that's the Greater Wellington Regional Council.
Yeah.
Have you lobbied them or talked to them at all?
No, not at the moment. I have thought about it. I thought land use was more of a council thing.
I'm just talking about the regulation of what you can do and what you can't do on your land. Council don't really control that in a farming situation.
Okay, but thank you for that question. I would like to suggest maybe what happens if a farmer, I grow GE, you grow GE, you are a non-GMO farmer, you grow GE, you get contaminated, and all our farms, even though they surround you, they have council land, council lands, and you have a really big loss of livelihood. You've got to prove who it was who contaminated you. It's going to be too difficult. So you're going to go to council.
Yeah.
So actually, this is not just the land use. I came here because I was wondering if land use you could, in your long-term plan, zone areas. I don't think you can with GMOs, but because genetic pollution will travel. However, I would like to suggest that I think council needs to look at how, I don't think insurance will cover it anymore because it's too risky. Acts of God or whatever that do cause contamination, how you're going to address cleanup of genetic pollution, even on council berms, lands, reserves and things like that. Because if GE ryegrass, which flowers 6 times a year, that pollen escapes, we've got grass everywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you, Claire. Any further questions around the table for Claire? Robin, can I ask that you send out the waiver? Yeah, we will send through the elected representatives. Thank you, Claire. Appreciate you coming.
Very much. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Claire.
Okay, move on to our next agenda item, which is Youth Council views on our agenda items.
Good afternoon, councillors. So on Monday, we just had a super small group of 2 because everyone is off travelling for Christmas at the moment. But we had a really good session and we were really excited to look at the CSPA concept designs and the Youth Council is obviously in full support of endorsing these. We think this will make an awesome community facility and it only makes sense to upgrade all of Carrington Park. So alongside the new park that we adopted the plans earlier on this year. The Youth Council also pointed out that they hope that this matches up with the new park upgrades as well so that they can complement each other nicely. And the Youth Council also just want to thank everyone for their time this year and the engagements that we've done with you guys, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. We're all happy to pass that the same back to the Youth Council. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to having more engagement next year. Yes.
Any questions? No questions? Thank you very much for that. Okay, agenda item 6, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 30th of October 2024. Happy, true and accurate record, and we have to move that on. Thanks, Councillor Ayling, Councillor Newman, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, before we move into reports, I'd just like to move that we add another agenda item to our today. What will be item 7.4.5?
718.
Oh,
Okay,
I was
right, 7.4.5.
yep.
Very good.
So I'm happy to move.
Let's see what it is.
As the adoption of the 2024 annual report.
I'm happy to
Quite
second it. Happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry-Campbell. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, we'll move on to reports. And we'll start with 7.1, which is Destination Wairarapa quarterly.
Good afternoon, councillors. For those that don't know me, I'm Roger Wiggles. I'm currently the Carterton rep on Destination Wairarapa, but at our recent board meeting, I was elected as chairman of Destination Wairarapa. So I've taken up that role now and come to you in this new capacity. Only a week old, so don't ask hard questions.
The only one there. I mean, what I meant was.
Yes, Stephen. Go, Steve.
And you've got both votes, eh?
Boom. And I didn't have to declare a conflict of interest. Yeah.
Oh, you can tell it's the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. So yes, so that's just a bit of an update for you, so you know that's happening. The second key thing that we've been doing as a board this year is looking very carefully at our strategic direction. In the heady days of COVID, the government splashed out money for all sorts of bits and pieces that we were able to take advantage of, or used to the advantage of the Wairarapa in terms of promoting it as a destination, in terms of product development, for tourism product development and things of that kind. That money has all disappeared, and so the board has had to look very carefully at defining what in the current environment its main role is. And we've concluded that our focus will be on marketing, solely on marketing the Wairarapa as a destination for visitors. And we won't be able to do product development. We won't be able to do various other things that we've done in the past. But that's just the reality of the funding that we have available. So we'll be publishing that strategy early next year. So that will be part of the next quarterly report that you get from us. And I think that's the update that I can give you. And Anna will talk briefly to the quarterly report, which is mature.
Yes, it is. It's a few months old now. I just wanted to just sort of support what Roger said there. Even though we've had to, focus on what our core business is and what we do, doesn't take away from the need for product development and infrastructure discussions and all the other bits and pieces that are in the Wairarapa Destination Management Plan, they're all incredibly important, but as we all know, costs are going up. And we funding is tight, as you all know as well. We've got to make sure that we do what an RTO is supposed to do and do it very, very well for not just us as an organisation and our members, but ultimately for the region of Carterton, Masterton and South Wairarapa. Yes, my report was for Q1, end of September. I'm really pleased to be out of that period and the winter previous. It was hard. Felt like wading through quicksand, but we've got some green shoots popping out the other side. I think the weather helps as well. We're known for nice summers, good weather, and I think it helps with the mood and the positivity. And Carterton in particular, there's a lot of lovely flowers that bloom in this area around this time, and we know that there's a lot of visitors are attracted to this region for the wonderful gardens that are here. I mean, amongst many other things, but I look forward to, I know that the sunflowers, the out west Taratahi, the fundraiser, that will be opening shortly. We've just had Rose and the Roses at, I've just forgotten the name of it now. Longbush, thank you. Sorry, apologies. Which was, followed on for the wonderful tulips event. It's just, there's some neat things that happen that grow here and bloom here, and quite charming, and it adds a really great appeal for Carterton in particular. Yes, so hopefully the summer's good and we get continued good visitation. You'll see in the report there that we've got numbers. They're just not increased at the moment, but they will. At least they're coming, and it means that we as a region and you as a TA are still relevant and still popular. So good Christmas, good New Year. Come back refreshed and hopefully some money in the tills and lots of very happy people wandering around the region.
Yeah. Questions?
Probably I've just got one for Roger. Congratulations, Roger, on your appointment or commiserations, whatever you. Does that open up a gap now, or are you still, as chair, are you still going to represent Carterton as our representative?
Yes, I'll still represent you as your representative. The appointments, the board gets their elected members and appointed members, and then from amongst that group, we choose the chair and the deputy chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Laurence?
Just a quick question. You've made a comment about basically sporting events and other events being an important attractant to the region, and you specifically mentioned the Hockey Association. Do you want to just elaborate on that a little?
Sure. I think probably because of the nature of hockey that it's all in one place, as opposed to if you're playing cricket or soccer or netball, it's spread throughout the region. They are one of the most organised groups when it comes to pitching for tournaments to come to the Wairarapa. And it's been recognised with some of that money that we got from the government through the COVID period. We looked at the potential of events to create a more economic impact, positive impact to the region. And what they call mass participation sport was one of those potential areas. And so I was kind of delving into that area and went and visited the Hockey Wairarapa, and because they had pointed out to me that over a period of a few weeks, actually, it was the end of September, beginning of October, they had 3 events, school kid events held at the stadium there. And they had done a survey of some of those participants, and they realised that over that short period of time, just from the hockey event itself, they generated an additional $250,000 into the economy in that space. Now, that didn't include all the many supporters, the parents who'd come, what they spent on accommodation, transport or food, or for that matter, they did make the point that one of the tournaments was a all-girls tournament, and they tend to shop when they come to these things. And I think that's a real massive opportunity, because those people here in the district participating, but they didn't stay here and they didn't shop here, and they all went elsewhere in order to spend that money. And I think it's an opportunity for us to work together to look at ways that we can increase the spend in this region. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's that stepped approach to investment into the area, whatever that may look like.
That equation for just that one tournament.
Oh, that was for 3 tournaments. They were both about, or all of them were about 2 or 3 days each, I believe, all school kids. And they've allowed me to share those figures with you. So you can imagine over a year, of course, they don't do this all the time, but, it does all add up.
Councillor Ayling.
I had one question and then a comment. My first one was you talk about this international spend per industry by region.
Yes.
One of the figures, other tourism products. I just wondered what that incorporates, because everything else was sort of tracking along and that one's dipped off.
Yes.
What comes in that category?
Other tourism products are things like, it's not necessarily within the region. It might be ferries is a really good example of, we book ferries into island ferries between the regions. That's another tourism product. When they're not sailing, the money's not coming into this region. It is incredible actually how many of you are probably quite aware, if you're coming from farming or wood background or whatever, those ferries and whether they go across the Cook Strait or not impacts a lot of our industry, whether it's tourists, whether it's product, whatever it may be, and it does impact us. Then there's other associated things like buses and other services.
And I had 2 comments. One was I thought your email open rate was really good. I think sitting around 40-something% is quite rare for organisations, and that's great engagement. And my other thought was the had a play around on your new website, and it looks great. I thought it much more engaging, and I think you'll find more people are finding their way onto that website now.
We're really excited, particularly if you haven't yet found it. There is a map function, so that when you go into it, for example, in Carterton, you see all the tourism things nearby. So if you're at, say, having lunch at Ula, and you're looking for something else you want to do after that, if you look at the map, then you'll see, oh, well, you can do this there, or come into town and do that. And that's open, and it's helpful in planning the itinerary and making sure that people are not just spending in one place, they're then moving on to the next, to the next, to the next, and the next. Or when they're researching, they can stay here because it's close to there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it.
Just a supplementary to that. I'm not going to be so kind. I'm curious how the destinations for the Explore, See and Do are chosen for the website. And it's around the fact that a number of the places that you have listed under Marsden are actually Carterton. So the Gentle Annie, Mount Holsworth, Jumbo Circuit, Rocky Lookout, Riven Rock Mountain Bike Park, Donnelly Flat Loop, Tocha Flats, they're all Carterton district.
Right.
Which boosts our numbers.
Yes.
Just to put it under the Carterton. But I'm also curious how you get on to the website when you look at Marsden, who've got the golf club on there. Carterton's got a golf club. We have Sparks Park. We have Carrington Park. We have Ula, Kaipatangata, Carterton Railway Museum. So how do you actually get on the website?
Well, it's what visitors are searching for a start. It's not. Remember, Destination Wairarapa is about bringing people into the region. So it's the types of things that they'll engage with here. And it's a mixture of members. So those that are members of Destination Wairarapa, and those areas like Fensham Reserve. With Mount Holsworth, there's been, as long as I've been there, an understanding that Waihine Gorge is Carterton and Mount Holsworth is in the Masterton district, but that's not correct. So I apologise for that. It's as since I've been there, that's been the understanding. So I will absolutely rectify that because that's
The Wainawa River is the boundary.
yeah, I always thought that would be the case, and I wasn't. It was just one of those things where you don't question it, so you don't know any better. And I assume those before me knew more than me, so I didn't ever delve into it. But I will fix that.
Yeah, for me, it's just getting that Carterton brand out there over the top of those places rather than, oh, that's Marsden. Hang on a minute. It's actually,
Yeah, and
somebody in the place of authority that might be able to drive that.
I understand, absolutely understand that, and we'll absolutely rectify that. We do look at the whole region as well, and it's visitors don't go to Carterton necessarily. They don't go to Masterton. They go to Mount Holdsworth. They do Rocky Lookout.
See events. They don't see district council.
That's right. And the more that, and we promote all of them, but it's the actual experience that they're after, not so much the region that they're in.
yeah, it was just from my perspective. If I'm going onto a website and I'm looking for things to do in Carterton, I'll tick that box and apply, so everything pops up in Carterton.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're missing out.
Yeah,
because
I apologise for that.
That's all.
Yeah.
No,
It'll be fixed.
thank you.
There is something obscure about the district electors for a trust house or something. I get a vote in that because I live on Mount Holdsworth Road. So there's something odd about that boundary, which is different from everything else that relates to local body elections.
Okay.
So whether that affects it or not, I don't know.
Licensing.
Councillor Cherry-Campbell.
I had comments bringing it back to the Destination Wairarapa report here. Just a couple of comments. So it was interesting that on page 26, you note that Wairarapa is one of the few regions that actually have guest night growth in August. We were saying how winter was a bit gloomy and going through quicksand. So that was great. And I also noticed in that same period that Queenstown actually was down. And that was really interesting because it's ski season.
Yes.
And it's kind of like that was quite a positive.
Yes.
We were the second highest nights. And then the other one was again in August, and the international spend, so 31 RTOs in New Zealand, and that we actually, well, Destination Wairarapa ranked second highest out of those 31. So that's showing that
it is off a low base. I have to admit.
That's okay, but let's take it.
Exactly. We have been, and you would have noticed that to the region, that Australia and other international tourists, mostly Australians, they are now our third or fourth, I think it's third most popular market. So we are actively working that relationship, and that is predominantly done in conjunction with WellingtonNZ, because we work really well together, and that is where the airport is. But also as the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail, with very strong relationship with Hawke's Bay, Wairarapa, Wellington and Marlborough, and it's a proposition that many Australians get, particularly if they're interested in wine and food. And we're broadening out that messaging so it's not just about wine and food. It's come to Carterton and do a dark skies experience, because actually this is kind of where you get to do most of that dark sky experience. I also want to applaud you actually on that note with the wonderful signage that's gone up, acknowledging that we're in a reserve. And for a visitor to see that, it actually makes it a real thing. And it's a really positive step in the right direction. And that's really exciting.
Councillor Newman.
Just got a question for Roger. As our representative on the board, can you give me an example or a couple of examples where you've been able to kind of be a voice for Carterton, or something you've pushed for on our behalf?
Well, there's two things. One is, while I might be a representative, I'm not necessarily an advocate solely for this. I mean, as a trustee of the board, the responsibility is for the overall strategic direction of the board. But the marketing team in Destination Wairarapa know that I very regularly am going through the advertising and looking at what things have come from Carterton and making sure that to the greatest extent possible, we're promoting things in Carterton. The challenge is there's only so many times you can tell people about Auntie Ginger's before they get bored. Yes, those, it's when we're sitting around the table, trying to look what's best for the whole Wairarapa, nevertheless pushing the idea that there are things that are happening or Carterton or part of Carterton that should be getting highlighted. And so, yes, the staff are aware when they bring their reports up that there is a voice from Carterton asks this question.
And further to your comment just then about it's only a certain number of times you can push.
Yep.
Right? What then do you think a benefit for us that's now dropped off from Destination Wairarapa is that product development? Was that quite good for Carterton? Was that a real benefit for us?
Can I comment to that?
Yeah.
I think it's good for the whole region. It's like I use the analogy of building a house. The real estate agent sells the house. If you look at Destination Wairarapa as the real estate agent, building the house is product development. If you don't have a house to sell, don't make any revenue.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for the whole region.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
But certainly we agree. I mean, one of the challenges, and my sort of offhand comment about Auntie Ginger's, we can promote Wairarapa, but it's really good if we got new things. You know, a lot of our visitors are from Wellington or Palms North. They've been before, they're coming back again. It's nice to be able to offer them something new. I mean, product doesn't just come out of the blue, but we were fortunate that there was funding available through MB during that period to hire Chrissy, who did a lot of work with nascent tourism businesses to try and promote them. She took some of our existing businesses and promoted them up the
Value chain.
Yes, the value chain. But I'm trying to think what's that measurement system, Tourism New Zealand measurement system.
Qualmark.
Yeah. So quite a few of the people went up from silver to gold, and others further up to gold. So we use that money for that purpose at that time, but yeah, that money is no longer
So that product development isn't sitting under anyone at the moment. There's no one's offering that product development now that Chrissy had.
No.
Any of the other groups, either WEDs and things like that.
No, not for tourism, no.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Oh, thank you, Anna.
Merry Christmas to you all. May you have a safe and a happy holiday with family and friends, and may the sun shine.
Yes.
And the tourists and the rimatakas
Stay open.
stay open.
Thank you.
We have one recommendation, that's that we receive the report. We have a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Newman. Thank you, Councillor Cherry-Campbell. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 7.2, Wellington New Zealand Quarterly Report. Welcome back.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me. So as you will have seen on the agenda, I'm speaking to two separate reports. The first one that I'll start with is the official quarterly reporting for the WEDS work program. That's WellingtonNZ is the program management office for, and you will have received that in the report. And then the second one is just an update to you of WellingtonNZ activities across the Wairarapa region that sit outside of the WEDS program. So that's for your awareness. Similar to the comment from Destination Wairarapa just before, this is a Q1 report, so it goes back a couple of months now. I can provide some additional insights verbally. So at the end of last year, in June, we signed off the new operating model for the WEDS steering group and the focus for the work program for this year. So WEDS has 3 focus areas: water resilience, primary sector food and fibre, and workforce development. And there's been good progress achieved in all 3 areas. On the water side of things, we've been working closely with the program director for the water resilience project, who reports to the water resilience governance group. And it's not captured in the report because it happened more recently. But we have approved the WEDS steering group has approved some funding to support a project that the program director will implement starting right now and into the first half of 2025, to look at water capture for Wairarapa. Our view is that this is from a water resilience perspective, this is the project that is most likely to unlock economic development opportunities. So we're very pleased to be supporting it. You will have even better awareness than I do of the Wainawa Water Security Project, because obviously that's within the Carterton District Council area. Since the report was written, we have had a catch up with the team at CDC that looks after this project. We are very pleased with the progress that has been achieved. And as a result of that, we have now released the budget that was approved from last year's WETS budget to support this particular project. And that is now sitting with our finance team. And finally, on the water side of things, again, it's not in the report because it happened last week, the Water Series, which is a peer-to-peer education program for largely primary sector operators across Wairarapa. The first event was last week at Kaiwaiwai Dairies in Featherston. We had room for 30 attendees and we had to increase that to 45 because there was overwhelming demand. So they have a solar powered system for all of their water management, both to supply water to the farm and also to treat effluents, I believe. And there was a lot of interest from people from the sector to learn from that, which is very promising. Moving on into the primary sector side of things. So we have had good engagement with the sector and we have now narrowed down on 3 focus priorities. It's around productivity, diversification to mitigate swings in income streams, and also the workforce side of things, which obviously is a key part of delivering outcomes for the sector. So we're now in the process of scoping what projects we can actually run to address those. And the first caps of the rank will be probably a workshop series focused on developing the capability of businesses within the sector over the course of the first half of 2025 and probably beyond, actually. In the workforce side of things, there's been really good projects led by different sector groups, in particular in the health side of things, making sure that there are enough health practitioners in Wairarapa for the community to be attended to, and which effectively unlocks people being able to do their jobs well, which is the economic development connection. There's been also a rollout of digital fluency assessments across schools that has had mixed feedback so far. The project is really good. There's a lot of promise. It's been challenging to really get the schools to engage with the program. And for those that have engaged, there's been some teething pains. So we're working with the provider through the sector group to make sure that that project actually carries on into the new year with the learnings being implemented. The last thing I'll mention on that note is with the manufacturing sector, obviously it's a very important sector for Wairarapa, for Carterton in particular. We have had challenges over the last sort of 6-4 months engaging with that sector. And I'm really pleased that in the last few months, we've made some really positive, had some really positive meetings with new leads for that sector group through Paul Henare from Breadcraft. They're doing really impressive to develop their own workforce, and they're keen to play a part within the manufacturing sector across the wider Wairarapa region, which we are very excited about. I'll pause here for the WETS report. Would you like me to give you room for questions now, or move on to the WellingtonNZ report and take questions?
Questions now, or do you want to hold off till?
You answered my question. It was on the education.
Happy to move on.
Happy to move on. Okay. So as WellingtonNZ, obviously our role is to be the economic development agency for the Greater Wellington region, which includes Wairarapa. We've got 4 primary touch points within, and I'm speaking on behalf of the business and innovation team within WellingtonNZ. We also have other business units like major events and destination marketing, which Anna has referred to. I'm less qualified to report over those areas. So I'll focus on our business and innovation activity. And we've got 4 main engagements across the wider region. The first one is through the Regional Economic Development Plan, which is a 10-year plan for economic development for the greater region. It's owned by the Leadership Committee, which all regional mayors and iwi leaders sit. There are 3 initiatives that are ongoing, which occur in Wairarapa. The first one is Dark Skies, which you'll be very familiar with. We were happy to support a capability development series of workshops that ran in the first quarter with 23 attendees from across Wairarapa. That was very successful. Feedback has been really positive, and there's ongoing conversations, I believe, within Masterton Council and South Wairarapa councils as to whether they would want to proceed with further workshops for their respective areas. We were also very happy to support Go Carterton, who ran Space Week, I believe in this building, probably this way. Specifically, our support was for a particular business event and also around careers that are available within the space sector, so aligning with our business support objectives and our workforce development objectives. The second one under the Regional Economic Development Plan is the Five Towns Trail, which you'll be very familiar with. We've been able to help the group establish a formal entity, a trust, and also give them some support to enable them to raise their own fund and ensure the sustainability of the model going forward. And finally, under the Regional ED Plan, Girls Who Grow is an initiative for young women in secondary school and the primary sector. And it's been very popular within Wairarapa. 40 students participated, I believe, across 4 schools. A number of workshops were held, including with UCall, and we've had some really strongly positive feedback. I must say that Wairarapa has been the best engaged part of the region within that particular program. It's been really successful, and we're actually looking at how to apply the learnings from Wairarapa within other parts of the region. And the 3 other things I'll touch on briefly is our business growth activities. There were 8 businesses supported, again, that's during Q1. And the team has been doing good work across the region and Wairarapa in particular. We've also engaged with a number of events. They are listed in the report. I think particular ones are the Wairarapa Business Summit and the Business Awards that we were judges at, and very pleased to attend with some hugely positive feedback from all the team members who attended the event. Next one is around Maori economic development. So we've been fortunate to be able to support local iwi, hapu and whānau alongside Maori businesses from Wairarapa to develop Maori economic development strategy that is still under development. And we are also looking at, we're in the process of developing a program to support businesses who might want to engage with procurement processes through bid development support. And finally, our film office. So we're the film office for the Greater Wellington region. That means that we represent councils whenever there is any filming activity that is going to occur in a public area. And our screen team is in the process of engaging with every single council across the region to renew the memorandum of understandings, memoranda, under which we operate that particular service. And this is including Carterton, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Questions around the table? Ayling.
I just had one on the water resilience, water education event that it said was planned for the 5th of December. I wonder if you have any feedback on how that went?
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned just earlier. Yeah, that had 45 attendees when we were hoping for 30. So that's been really positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
No further questions, discussion around the table? No? Well, thank you, Matt.
It's been a great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
For your time. Thank you. Cheers, likewise.
Thank you.
Recommendations.
Item 7. Better.
Adopt the
Yeah,
Receive report.
we have one recommendation. That's it. We received the report. I'm happy to move that. We have a second. Thank you, Councillor Gowan. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. 7.3, organics curbside collection feasibility study. Johannes.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors. I'll take the report as read, and you might recall that you've heard about us securing this funding quite a number of times through Chief Executive report, the solid waste report update. The purpose of this process, or the purpose of this report, is to follow the process of confirming the budget. So just because we have funding doesn't necessarily we have an endorsed budget. So as we state, we secured funding to develop a feasibility study, and that would be 75% funded by MFE. The balance would be funded through the 3 Wairarapa councils. As you would recall, in our LTP, we set aside council's share for waste minimisation projects that would be largely funded by MFE, and this is one of those. So with that, give it back to you.
Thank you, Johannes. We have questions down the table. Cherry-Campbell.
Bottom of page 53, saying that the balance of 30,000 will be shared between the 3 Wairarapa councils and funded from approved budgets. Will that 30,000 be $10,000 per council? I got your or is it going to be on the percentage matrix?
This, I believe so I think the starting point would be that it would be equally shared, just because the feasibility would benefit everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
So that is $30,000 spread across the 3 councils. I guess following on from that, and I don't know if I'm too soon or not, but I think the recommendation needs to be clarified slightly in recommendation 2, where it says funded existing approved budget LTPs. Sorry.
Would you prefer to cap it?
I think it possibly, to me, reading that, potentially it sounds as if the Carterton District Council is going to fund the extra 30,000 in that recommendation.
I've got a suggestion that it's an either or. So my suggestion was for the second recommendation was that we approves the budget of 120,000, including 90,000 MFE grant funding, subject to all 3 councils approving their council's equal share of the 30,000 shortfall.
Done.
You don't get an
Or what did I have an or?
Is it, yeah?
Approves the budget. Oh, I had a question just before that. Have we actually received the 90,000 from it that's in our bank account?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you can disregard the or.
Yeah.
Just noting that the council share, the budget's already approved and it falls within officers' DFA. So we won't, it's already been approved. It's part of the LTP.
That's probably reasonable. But if the other 2 councils decide not to, does that mean we are going to have to fund the 30,000 to continue with the feasibility study?
So Rob, I think there would be other even further consequences if they chose not to, because the MFE funding requires them to participate in this, but to be funded at that level. So, but they have also committed to this. My understanding is that they've got similar budgets in their LTP as well. I didn't object to the revision of the recommendation. I just noted or wanted to note that the budgets are already approved.
That's right.
My only other thought was in line with what the other councillors have brought attention to, is that if we do a equal split, 10,000 each, that's not setting a precedent for us going forward with this. If this feasibility study results in us wanting to do this process, I would hate to think the equal split is the continued model that we go for with this project.
Study only.
It just needs to be.
Yeah, know where you come from.
Although if the principle doesn't change, then there's no justification for changing the funding model, is there really?
Like if the workload that it would result doing a study is it is an even playing field in that we all benefit from that. But going forward, they're going to have a lot more households that are going to be collecting rubbish, collecting the, food waste. So it would be different cost for each council at that point, in my opinion.
If I may just add to that, other shared service agreements where there's an obvious difference in level of service, we do clarify that in the agreement that it is split on, for instance, road network length or the unit measured in value type of arrangement. So.
Just a very general question. If this is in the long-term plan, it's already within your discretion and approvals, isn't it? I mean, we don't necessarily need to approve the 10K, do we?
So the council's share is accounted for in our finances. So approving this has no impact on rates.
No.
But
but have we not already approved it? That's my point.
But there's a significant difference in our council's share approved in the LTP and the budget of this project.
So approving $10,000 as part of the LTP is one thing. Approving $120,000 investment under feasibility is, we thought it was worthwhile bringing back.
This is just procedural.
More notice is better than no notice.
Yeah.
Any further questions, discussion? So if we move to the recommendation, then we take the first one that we received the report. Happy to move that. We have a second. Thank you, Councillor Newman. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And the second recommendation, if we look at altering that to read, you're happy for what I read out earlier? Approves the budget of 120,000, including 90,000 MFE grant funding, subject to all three councils approving their council's equal share of the 30,000 shortfall. Happy to move next. Councillor Cherry-Campbell, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Johannes. Okay. Where we at? 7.4, Carterton Skate Park User Group, Carrington Park.
I'd like to introduce Collier to the table and Willie, sorry, mind blank. So we're going to present the Carterton Skate Park report. The guys here alongside three other people have been working with Acid Skate Design for over a year now, developing concept designs for the new skate park. So first image in the report is basic concept of what it looks like. There is an increase in size. And the aim is to go out to the community and do engagement with community, hear feedback from the users of the place, and come back and tweak this design to enable detailed design.
Questions? Councillor Newman.
I note that it's now taken over those basketball courts a fair chunk. What is the plan on going with the basketball courts?
Yeah, so as part of Carrington Park's larger design, there was movement of the basketball courts down to the far end of Carrington Park, and that becoming more of a usable space with the markets and smaller half courts. So it is moving into that space. It is creating more room in there, but it still allows for the multi-use space with markets and half courts down the far end.
Okay, so it might just look a little bit messy until the actual park upgrade happens.
Yes. What should probably noted on the back of the bowl, there is seating area put all around there, so it does create more seating looking into the space.
Slightly oversized basketball courts at the moment, though. It was a skate rink originally. We added basketball courts into what was a skate rink, so they're slightly larger than normal. The intention was to rotate them 90 degrees so that you had them going
east-west.
Yeah.
Councillor Gillon?
I've got page 57, you know, the 730,000, and then it's got bus demolition. Is that
Existing skate bowl. And so the bowl will have to move from where it currently is to the new bowl locations.
no sugar?
High level figures of around, but it is going to be subject to detailed design, which is why we didn't include that demo price at this stage.
So that's the user group. They're going to be doing the fundraising to build the skate park and the demolition and all, and that. So it's not going to cost the ratepayers. Okay.
Councillor Ayling?
So I just have one question. It said that council seeking council support for the development of the fundraising plan. Are you confident that you have within your existing capacity and staff levels and budgets enough to help them with this work?
Yeah. So Bex will jump in and help put a plan in place for the fundraising. We've also got Funding HQ, which we can tap into just to look at some of the larger funding opportunities. And these guys will be doing the majority of the work. Bex will just be supporting them in the background. Yeah.
Cool.
We also have skateboarding museum and for about Wellington Skateboarding Association is the kind of backup, you know, and that they're going through the process of 6 new builds at the moment. So we're going to lean on them and sort of get some help in terms of how to fundraise.
Yeah. One other question, sorry.
That's right.
How does the size of this new park compare to the Masterton skate park, just for visual?
Oh, it's way small.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably about a quarter.
Right.
Councillor Newman?
Can I comment? It's not a question. It's saying good work on keeping the project running, because it's sad to see the park seems to slow down, but it's really cool that you guys are pushing ahead with this. So thank you for doing that. It's really good to see.
I concur. I think it's fantastic to have a plan moving forward for the skate park, because it has been talked about for 2, 3, 4 years. One thing for me, I would have liked to have seen was a second concept.
Yeah, okay.
To if we're going out to the community to give them an idea of what it might look like, it was slightly smaller. And I know the fundraising's going to be looked at outside of council, but the community might look at something that may have been $200,000 less or $150,000 less, more advantageously than 730,000. So I was just wondering, and it might not have gone into the skate park as much because we have no idea around the council when Carrington Park may be upgraded. It could be 5 years, 10 years away. So it just, from my perspective, it would have been good to have a secondary, smaller, slightly smaller tweak.
That's a good point. When we do go out to community consultation, if that's something that comes up with, potentially something they're doing another concept. I guess the idea was you want to have enough space that there's enough room for enough users to use the space simultaneously. Current footprint, how it is and how it's like tucked up right against those trees. We've actually pulled the current footprint away from those high value trees. And that's why it's kind of pushed into the basketball court, and that extra those extra square meters are kind of a bit of a requirement just to create the space to allow enough people to use the space simultaneously without it being a health and safety risk. But yeah, we think it's a really good design, and we are limited with that space because it is kind of tucked into a corner, and there's a basketball court and there's a boundary and there are the existing trees. So all considered, I think it does use the space really well. Yeah. And the other thing we'd like to highlight is that the bowl now kind of being placed at the front, a lot more visual. And so we think that will be only a good thing for the skate park and the users.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, when you go down there any time of the day or into the evening, the skate park's the area that gets the most use consistently. Just one question, is the intention to put up a visual board there somewhere of the plan so that people can see it and
Will be, yeah.
and start really imagining?
Yeah, so the idea is obviously if we get the go ahead from you guys, then we're going to start working with Glenda and the team to set up an engagement plan, and that engagement plan will include things like the board or whatever engagement process.
So Acid New Zealand, which is the designers that have designed the concept, have been really supportive throughout the whole process. They've provided a whole lot of high-res plans as well, but they've also said that they'll come down and help facilitate workshops with the schools and the young people to start to really hone in on the important key aspects of it as well, which is quite good.
Very cool. Where are they based?
Hamilton, isn't it?
Yeah, they've built probably a dozen skate parks around New Zealand or so.
The public ones, yeah. He's done a lot of private stuff as well.
Yeah, but they're really, they're quite highly regarded in New Zealand. Kind of skate park buildings.
Thanks to Laurence.
Well, the only thing I'd say in terms of the risks you've said here, I think you've overstated the reputational risk a little bit. I mean, if we took that view on that something good may and get people excited and then may not happen, we'd never do anything. So
I think I highlighted that more so around the Carrington Park project because it's the same that we've drummed up so much community engagement and excitement about the Carrington Park project, and we're just going a little bit stagnant with that at the moment. And I think people are just sitting in that grey area of is anything happening at all. So I did include that because this also has the potential to do that as it's based on obtaining that external funding.
But just an aside to that, I'm guessing, I mean, we've already got the concept plans for Carrington Park already. I'm just wondering if that area around the basketball court and would something be included in that, the tidying that up, because cutting the concrete and everything, I don't know what that might do to the infrastructure of that pad. I'm just wondering whether that needs to be included in what you're developing. I know I'm increasing the cost of it now, but
and we have always thought that the basketball court and the skate park, because they're both hard surfaces, they do work really well together. So, you know, we would like to see, you know, but it's kind of like we've been working on the skate park project, so we're going to want to stay in our lane as well. Obviously, we want to see the whole park. We want to see the basketball court all function as one. But it's I guess that there'd be something if we go out to community consultation and that's something that comes up.
Just if you get a question asked, what's that going to look like once it's built? I'm just wondering whether something can be added in that shows what it's going to look like potentially.
We did always intend to work in with the line from Carrington. Yeah.
Just it might help sell it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Okay, thanks guys. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. Any further discussion on the table?
I'm still not taking up skateboarding though.
You can jump on a scooter.
We have two recommendations. One is that we received the report. Thank you, Councillor Ayling. Thank you, Councillor Newman. All in favour? Thanks. Carried. The second recommendation is that we agree to endorse the Carrington Park Skate Park User Group's concept plans and support the next step of community engagement. Thank you, Councillor Cherry-Campbell. Councillor Williams. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
A little bit while we give Carol a moment, unless she needs a moment. You need a moment?
Okay, we're going to jump forward. Let's go to 7.6, as Jeff has suggested, which is a request from Wairarapa Sports Artificial Surface Trust. And you can find that on page 78. I'm to speak on that.
I'm more than happy to talk to this request that came into myself and the Mayor as a request from hockey, the Hockey Artificial Surface Trust, seeking support from the three councils for a guarantee around a loan that they propose to take out. We've prepared a paper here, and there is some attachments there with regards to forecasts in terms of their financial forecasts. We haven't done any work on those forecasts. They are just as they have been presented to us. The risk that I've attempted to highlight for council is that consistency in our decision making, whether it's community groups coming to us seeking to guarantee or support their endeavours, and there is certainly a depth of community groups in our district who would like our support and would benefit from our support, but at this stage we haven't stepped into guaranteeing any of those groups, and the risk is potentially the first one through the door, first up best dressed, and then the ones that come later on find that the door is now closed or the funding has so it is open for your decision as to what we do next.
Thank you, Jeff. Councillor Williams.
Just a couple of questions. Reading the supporting information from the club, do we know how many members are in the club?
I was not provided that information. No, I don't.
Second question, do we know what yet the other council's view is on this, or is that still pending?
I know one of the support team that is helping them has taken time to present to Masterton District Council today at their meeting. I don't know what their decision is yet. I was of the opinion that they were less likely to support it, but I don't have that information yet. If you give me a moment, I might actually have it on the phone, but I don't think I do.
Cool. No more questions. Lots of comments, but no questions.
Councillor Cherry-Campbell.
I have a few questions. On top of page 79, and one of my questions, Councillor Williams has mentioned sort of asking if either our neighbouring councils have agreed to be guarantors, and if not, when are they voting? One of my other questions is around the two entities, and it says at the top of page 79, Wairarapa Hockey Association and WSAST have proposed a plan to become one entity. This plan has yet to be voted upon. When are they going to vote on this? Because it's kind of like, I understand their time constraints, but for me, it's a little bit cart horse scenario on that. So do we know when?
They haven't provided me with a timeline on when both entities are going to vote on it. And I put my professional hat on. The risk with providing a guarantee without understanding the governance structure of who you're providing the guarantee for is quite significant.
Yeah.
And I would have recommend if we are considering a guarantee that we would want to cement the governance structure in place that we know that will deliver an outcome, i.e. pay off the debt they're about to take. It doesn't appear that we have security around the governance structure of either entity or a joint entity yet, which provides a greater risk for council backing the loan.
I see Destination Wairarapa said before, $250,000 over 3 tournaments that come in. Then I look at all the other push-ups. Yeah, they're saying maximum period of 5 years guarantee, but yeah, as you say, for the other councils are on board too. And there's a few fish hooks in there.
Councillor Cherry-Campbell.
Probably not. I was hoping somebody was going to be here so I could actually ask questions. Yeah, so I guess it's probably, I'll state it now. It was going to be a question, but now it's not. So if this merged entity, are they going to anticipate applying for grant funding to pay off a loan? I was going to ask them, had they actually done their homework on grant funding? Because in my experience, grant funding is not granted retrospectively for something that's already been purchased, and certainly not to pay debt off. And then again, in their financial assumptions, I noticed from 2026, they had assumed that Carterton District Council was going to be giving them a grant of in excess of $20,000. And again, I was going to ask them if they understood the community grant fund situation. So I guess they're kind of just now more comments. This is no one to answer.
Difficult.
So just following on from Councillor Cherry-Campbell there, and she's mentioned that in their annual projections moving forward, to me, it's just crystal ball gazing. They've perceived that all three councils will increase their support dramatically from 26 to 29, and Trust House will continue to provide 55k annually as well. So I'm not sure. My question for someone who was meant to be sitting there is how the trust have decided that councils will increase their funding over those 4 years, when it should be known to them that all three councils are actually pulling back on their spending as such, apart from core services.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I had noticed the other councils, but I was kind of focusing on Insignificant. But yeah, exactly.
Councillor Dillon.
Do we know who turned down the grant that they were expecting?
No, I don't have.
Because there must have been, unless they're really, really, really irresponsible, they must have had a pretty good indication that they were going to get the money. But we don't know who that was.
But was it turned down because they already started the project?
I'm not sure.
Then applied for funding. Who knows?
Lots of questions.
Councillor Della.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Steve. All the discussion we've had so far and the points that have been raised by Jeff re our past presidents of not guaranteeing loans, grants, or whatever to outside organisations. I find it very difficult how we can support this. As has already been explained, there are a lot of fish hooks in here, and we're not even quite sure of the entity. So with that in mind, I think we should really move to the recommendations.
I'm happy to hear more. Is there any more further questions or just discussion around the table? I just had one more question, and that was, and Jeff, you've probably already said that you can't answer anything really to do with these. But for me, I'd like to know what the financial position of Wairarapa Hockey Association is, because I see they've already provided a loan of $100,000 to the trust. So that for me is quite significant, rather than just providing us with the artificial surface trust financials. So,
right. Yes. I think and I'm crystal ball gazing, what appears to be the problem is one entity collects fees and passes some or all of it through to the other entity, which, and I think it's Wairarapa Hockey Association collects the fees and passes it through to the Artificial Surface Trust. Now, that can either work particularly well if those two entities get along well, or can become a bottleneck where there is friction or additional cost in one that may not be in the other. So I think that attempt to join the two entities is absolutely required. But at the moment, we've got potentially one entity that is maybe benefiting from collecting all the fees and not passing everything through to the other entity that's got all of the debt. And Yeah. If, and I'm only waxing lyrical here, so if council were supportive of doing something, it would be better for the three councils to get together and own the asset ourselves and then take over the governance of that asset, rather than allowing a community group to govern it and us guarantee a debt. Because that way we would have control of the asset, we would be able to set the fees, you would be able to manage the governance of it in an appropriate and transparent way for the community on behalf of everyone in the community, both our ratepayers and the Hockey Association users. This model appears like we're getting a liability, but we don't have control over how the asset is managed. And to me, that feels more risky.
And for me, just on top of that, I would have thought that progressing a joint thing between Wairarapa Hockey Association and the Trust, they would have done that quite some time ago, knowing the position they were in, especially if one folds, where does the Hockey Association play? So I'm surprised they haven't done a lot of work prior to this. But anyway, discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying I've got friends that are involved in this, and I can tell you the stress is extraordinary. So I don't want to minimise the pressure that they're under. However, it's self-inflicted stress. I mean, any organisation that spends money that it doesn't have puts itself in a very vulnerable position. And unfortunately, that seems to be, based on what information we're given, that seems to be where it's at. The reason I asked was how many members the organiser, I'm involved in various sporting entities and council doesn't support them. We choose to do what we do and we fund it. And if we're in a shortfall, well, each member comes up with some money to keep it afloat, or stands back and says, I'm not going to do it. For me, notwithstanding some benefit outside, really, it's a sport like most sports that are there to benefit those with that particular passion, and all power to them. But it's a big ask to expect a ratepayer in the back street who's never been near a hockey field to want to contribute. But for me, and this order paper probably makes it more difficult, but there's a lot in here. There's a lot of requests for unbudgeted funding that is much closer to core business of council. I can't draw a line to core business, and I can't draw a line to the predicament they're in. So it's impossible to support for me.
Absolutely. I can only, my concern with the trust is its ongoing reliance from outside funding sources. I think you can see in the accounts it's been cut considerably for this year, and I'm really struggling to understand how they're sustainable moving forward. So having that kind of level of reliance on external funding to survive, to me, is questionable. So there's no further discussion.
Yeah, there's a couple of points I'd just like to make. One is I'd never guarantee anything. Just I know. I know.
It's a Scottish name.
Well, you've got to rely on the principal debtor to do what they said they were going to do, and you can't control them. So I don't think a guarantee is anything that council should get involved in. I have a concern that we don't know. We've got forecasts. I can do forecasts. They never actually work out. We don't know what the financials actually are. It does seem they're talking about $5,000 a month of rental income, which I presume is from the hockey players.
Subs.
But we don't know what that's been in the past. On the other hand, it's quite a critical facility. That's why I asked the question of Anna before about what it means. I think it means quite a bit. But we haven't got enough information here to. I think in the end it would be quite good if we could help them in some way, but we can't do this.
So that leads me to another question. Have they actually approached Wairarapa AMP Society?
That's
Oh, it's actually in there.
So I did speak with Fraser this week, or maybe last week, and the feedback was AMP Society rules. So the Agricultural and Pastoral Society rules in New Zealand they prohibit them from providing guarantees for entities that are not AMP Society. So they have looked at AMP Society helping them, and unfortunately those rules, which is unfortunate as they are the landlord.
Thank you. Okay, we have a number of recommendations there, but we may only need to take the first two. Let's do the first one, that we received the report. And Councillor Newman and Councillor Williams, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And we have the second recommendation, which is declines to act as a joint guarantor for the Wairarapa Artificial Surface Trust. I'm going to put that table. Do we have a mover?
Move it.
Councillor Ayling, do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Laurence, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay. So that is our answer to the question. We don't need to go through any of the other recommendations.
Last minute.
Chair, if council would like me to continue working with Hockey Association and the Artificial Surface Trust, I'd be more than happy to take that as an action.
Yeah, I would personally like that because, as it's been stated, it's a important asset for the Wairarapa, and for me, voting the way I voted doesn't discount that. But I don't believe it's down to councils, as has been discussed, to bail out sporting entities. But it would be great if there was some other way.
And unfortunately, like we've got Dane Lett and Megan Hull, who are Wairarapa people representing New Zealand, which come through the strategic. Yeah, it's great, but it doesn't fix today's problem.
Well, if you council wish me to do that without providing, balance sheet support, then I'm more than happy to.
Only if you've got the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move back to item 7.4.5, which is the adoption of the 2024 annual report.
Also.
Okay, we don't have to do that one.
4.5 was.
4.5 is the adoption.
7.4.5 is the adoption of the annual report.
That PowerPoint's not.
So we had an agenda item, the adoption of the annual report. We apologise for that coming late, however.
We have a 10-minute break while Brian gets under the table.
Okay, the PowerPoint's not switched on underneath. Yeah. Okay.
Put your glasses.
My leg, Brian.
Dale, can you throw in one of your biscuits?
It's a good idea to get the youngest. Hang on, just wait
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Deputy Mayor, everyone. Apologies for being late. Just finalising the annual report. Okay, I will take the paper as being read, but I do have some changes. So it was written a couple of days ago and things have changed a little bit then. The first point is I'd just like to point out that the independent auditor's report that's attached is slightly out of date in the last 2 hours. But the only change is the page numbers that they're referring to in their audit opinion. So the actual annual report document has just been updated to reflect the minor changes. I'm sure we can live with that change. The other thing to note, I will go through some of the changes in the annual report, but I think the most important thing to highlight is that we ended up with 2 qualifications, not 3. The auditor's report identified 2 qualifications, and we all know that we were expecting a qualification on the residents' annual survey, so that has not changed. And then the second qualification is on the valuation methodology on the investment in Castle Rock. And we were briefed by audit on that matter, and they suggested a delay or a qualification. So there's no change to that qualification, and there's no change to that position at all. The third qualification was on the performance measure for roading smoothness. And since we met with Karen audit, they requested further work from us this week, and we have managed to remove the qualification because we've demonstrated that we've done additional work to assist in making better measurements on that performance measure. So I think we did a very good job in explaining to audit what we were prepared to do and how we were prepared to improve that performance measure. And in the annual report, just updated, the performance measure has a further commentary on what we did to change that performance measure and how we've improved it. We've gone into a what am I calling it, strategy on that measure. Just pull it up. So this is our commentary on that measure that council have performed a limited survey of traffic counts. However, going forward, the council has engaged GHD engineering to develop a more robust traffic count and estimates on the process, something to that effect. So we were able to demonstrate to audit that it's no longer a qualification.
It sounds like a hair straightening company.
That's
that's
with
HD.
It's smoothness.
It is smooth, yeah. It's GHD road.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. Not at all. You must need it.
Although Johannes struggles with it.
So I just think on those 2 qualifications, the one on the annual resident survey, we have agreed that we will do the survey next year. So that should remove the qualification going forward. And with the investment matter, we are expecting the audited accounts for Castle Rock to come through next year and to provide evidence and comfort to Audit New Zealand that it met their requirements.
Except it's always going to be too late.
Correct.
We have a chairman sitting at the table.
Yep. Do you want me to continue?
Yes.
Yes, sure. So any questions on the qualifications?
Great news. Down to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the annual report, there have been quite a lot of changes since the last version. They're quite minor, but they were minor by audit. So we were still making changes at 1:30 today. Also, the opinion review committee who do the reviews on the qualifications also reviewed the performance measures around those qualifications. So they came back with quite a lot of changes to the wording around the annual resident survey and how we were to demonstrate that in the report. So any measure that has a reference to the annual resident survey has been changed in content. And that was probably one of the biggest changes to some of the text. We had text that we had just lots of changes to minor text all day. So
the changes have been text changes.
Not financial.
Not financial changes.
There's no changes to the financial position.
Right. Thank you.
Some of the changes incorporated were to do with the investment, how we stated that in the financial statements and how we presented that information and the notes to accompany that representation. There was nothing else of significance, just full stops missing.
Was an editorial
Editorial
change
changes.
rather than a financial or substantial change.
And these, let's call them grammatical text changes, have delayed the auditor's opinion being received effectively. Not changes to any of our financial positions and statements.
The qualifications and providing sufficient evidence to audit around the qualifications for the investment and the road smoothness in particular have taken a matter of months to complete. It's significantly delayed the adoption of our annual report.
Aaron, do you have more? Yes.
You can ask me questions.
Councillor Ayling.
Just a question on the point you've just made there, Jeff, that this has taken weeks of additional time going over these potential qualifications. We had a meeting with audit a week ago, and since then, Johannes has put together a few sentences that's made the qualification go away. It seems ridiculous that's been weeks and weeks of work for them that we're now going to have to fund additional costs. And it's been sorted in a week. One of those issues have gone away. So has there been a huge amount of work that has gone into removing that qualification, or is it really just a few words on paper has put their mind at ease? Put you on the spot.
If I may comment, so they've gone back to a comment that we've made very early in or some of our original commentary, and they wanted to expand on that. The expansion of that was giving them insight to the work that GHD has been engaged to do, but we did communicate to them that that's what we are doing. However, it wouldn't affect the performance of the financial year under audit. It will only come into effect probably next year. So that is what's put them to ease. So I think I've shared similar frustration that they could have asked that question when we presented that comment to them.
It's being it's just like drip feeding, isn't it?
If I could just add to that too, in terms of the other qualification on the investment matter, you know, last week when audit presented, we reclassified that component 3 times, and their opinion review committee came back on Monday and said they didn't like the way it had been done and we had to redo it. So we weren't getting consistent feedback on which way to present it, and it was only when it went to a higher authority that they would then determine that it needed to be redone. So even this morning we were still changing sentences around that investment category. So it's been continuous changes, which is not ideal.
But we are now still showing it as an equity investment, which is what PwC asked us.
Yeah. Initially, we were asked to separate it in the statement of financial position. They came back on Monday and said they wanted that changed back to how it was. And it's now just in note 7 as an equity investment, I think, in limited partnerships. I forgot the exact wording because it's changed again. So I'm not, to be fair, I don't think they've had many of those type of investments to deal with. But I didn't expect their opinion review committee to then review a lot more than they did and then to come back with changes.
So that's not normal. No.
It's not normal. And it is late. It is late.
Councillor Williams. Yeah, look, I've been around a while. I'll tell you, I've been really underwhelmed with audit this time round. I thought that discussion we had with them last week was very poor.
Mhm.
The type of almost flippant, oh, well, just delay it. It's like, I was astounded at the type of, I know they weren't giving advice, but the type of information that they were so offhand about, and yet they are constantly coming back and challenging us well after the fact. It's been 3 months with our LTP trying to get information, with our annual report, given that their fees went up 40% last year. It's absolutely disgraceful. And I know it's a regulatory requirement. We have no choice about, but they also have a responsibility to do their work appropriately and not subject us to additional stress, time and cost on top of, we're going to be talking about paying them even more money on top of their fee. I don't know what recourse we have in terms of expressing our frustration and disappointment that they have really compromised the council and our team. And I don't see any benefit that we've got out of it other than that we're grateful to finally get a report, but we shouldn't be. That's my opinion.
Report in October.
Pardon?
We had a draft report in October. I
Mm.
think it was the 2nd.
Yeah.
We started the audit on the 1st of October.
Any other questions of discussion? Oh, sorry, Gavin.
There's not much more I can add, I don't think.
May I?
Yes, you've got this then. Oh,
So I'd like to highlight that some of the performance metrics in our annual report are absolutely stunning. The mere fact that our water team have kept on top of our water leaks, and that our water leaks are, have dropped from 16% of water loss last year to 13% water loss this year. And we know that a lot of that water loss is occurring beyond the Toby, so not necessarily on council pipes and pumps, and yet other councils around us are having significant issues with water loss. Whilst we are frustrated with the process to get here, I think it's really important to highlight for our community that the performance results that we are showing have huge benefit for our community, and we should be really proud.
Jeff.
One thing, just perhaps to save you a little bit of time, just to clarify, on recommendation 3, we don't need that anymore, do we?
Yes.
Just in cases.
It's like now,
Yes.
we do.
Yeah, normally we do.
We do.
We'll do a summarised version. It'll go up on the website. We do.
I thought, all the grammar and full stops are pretty good now.
And the other reason you need is you have to, this is the full annual report. There is another annual report called the summary document that hasn't been finalised. So there's 2 annual reports. So this allows us to finish the summary one, which, but by the way, it's a different audit opinion.
It'll be audited.
Yep. Sorry, Councillor Adam.
I wanted to say the same comment that Jeff made. I think all of audits dramas aside, I think the annual report is a very impressive document. I think when you look through all those spreadsheets, the projections and the outcomes are so close to what we were budgeting. I just think that needs acknowledgement of how much work goes into getting a budget that close to the actuals is pretty impressive. In some of our departments, like for example, Solitaire's department, the regulatory space in the Wairarapa, not only is on paper it fantastic, but I hear how good and how highly regarded it is. So I think things like that are a credit to our organisation.
And I think it's worth noting, as audit have said, that the performance measures are as equally important as the financial statements. So that's why there's so much rigour around these performance measures this time, which is probably something we underestimated before.
Thank you, Carol. I have nothing further to add. I'm just happy to move on to the recommendation. And we better take them individually, or at least the first two individually. I'm happy to move that we receive the report. We have a second.
Absolutely.
Councillor Galvin, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Recommendation 2, adopts the Carterton District Council annual report for the year ended 30th of June 2024. Councillor Cherry-Campbell and Councillor Adela, all in favour?
Yeah.
Against? Carried. And I think we can take the last two recommendations, 3 and 4. Delegates the Mayor and Chief Executive the authority to approve any final editorial changes to the 2024 annual report prior to publication, and notes that the annual report and a summary annual report must be published within 1 month of adoption. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Newman, Councillor Gallen, all in favour? Against?
No, I'm not against, sorry. No. I was in favour. Before we move on from this, through you, Mr Chair, I would actually like to suggest a motion that Carterton District Council seeks a change in auditor. Not sure of the process of that. Is this the appropriate time to place?
I think following the adoption of the annual report's probably an appropriate time. We are unable to change auditor without permission from the Office of the Auditor General. So we would need to write to the Office of the Auditor General outlining our rationale for a change. And that would need to have a council resolution to support that request. It would just be from me as Chief Executive. It would need to be from council. If council were of the mind to consider that, I would certainly be supportive of a letter in a change of it.
I'll second it.
That's right.
We were done on it.
So the wording.
Oh. Is it?
I think we would resolve to seek permission from the Office of the Auditor General to have a change of auditor for the
24-25.
The 25-26 year. I don't think we could change the auditor for this fiscal year. We're already in it. It would need to be for the 25-26.
Robin, you got that? So that's been moved by Councillor Cherry-Campbell and seconded by Councillor Ayling.
Dale got there first.
Oh, and thirded by Councillor Williams. All in favour?
Can I just discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Is it your discussion or a question?
This is a question. In the opinion of the Chief Executive, does that, if we've written to the Auditor General seeking to get rid of the auditors who will be auditing next year's annual plan and next year's annual report?
Sorry, don't audit an annual plan.
Okay.
They will audit the next year's annual report.
Yes. Is that likely to create tension?
Yes, it is likely, and I don't think it's an unreasonable request at this stage. What I am very aware of is Audit New Zealand are short-staffed, and the staff that they do have, our auditors, are under enormous pressure to complete a number of council's annual reports within a very short window. And, we get slipped and slopped and pushed out, and I think the request is not unreasonable given the time delays that we have had. So it may create a bit of stress. We have flagged to Audit New Zealand that we're unhappy with their timeliness of their auditors, and in particular we were planning on adopting on the 30th of October, and it's now drifted to 6 weeks later, and that's put the finance team in particular under enormous pressure with additional work, and also mucked around your diaries. So yes, it will, but I don't think it's something we can't handle.
My initial thought is I don't know how under pressure they can be when they can afford to spend weeks on full stops and typos. But all that aside, I just wondered what your thoughts were on our chances of getting a new auditor, or if it is unlikely for us to be able to switch.
That's a really good question. I am aware South Wairarapa have also considered a change of auditor, and their council has given a resolution to their chief executive to seek a change of auditor as well. It is likely then the whole of the Wairarapa may get a new auditor, which would, so more than one council will give support. So it is possible. It's greater than better chance of getting a new auditor with more than one council. We certainly have South Wairarapa. We'll see where Masterton land.
They did get a clean audit report. I know this because I watched their meeting last week to see what happened, and the Karen Young was there.
Yes.
And they said, what a wonderful job. They don't get any clean audit report. So they've got less trouble.
We will, one of the qualifications that we have will disappear following our next residence survey. So at least one of our qualifications will go, and we'll need to figure out what we're going to do with the investment. But that's a discussion for the investment committee and our investment advisors rather than our auditor.
I think so.
Apart from the associated costs from this year, do you see the cost being higher?
Good question. The cost for auditing is set by the Office of the Auditor General. So regardless of who the auditor is, the cost is the same.
Do we have the motion? We have a second now? All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Carried. Thank you, Councillor. So, Chair, we've been operating for 2 hours. If you wish to break.
Let's take an adjournment for 10 minutes. Back at 3:10.
The residents need to say